Hello and welcome back to the channel. Sitting here dressed in a warm polo neck against the ravages of the wintry storms that are blowing outside at the moment. This video seems like it's been a very long time in the making. It goes back to the summer. There's a certain romance about a French seaside town, waves gently lapping, narrow streets between old stone houses leading to the beach. What could be better than shooting moments of life like this? Charming architecture, local characters, but it comes with its challenges. Let's travel back to the summer and cross the channel. I recently made a comment in the video about street photography and saying that I felt it could be done anywhere, and I do. And one of the places I mentioned was a beach. So here I am. 9:15 in the morning, not a soul in France, and really wanting to see what I can get, uneven ground, wanting to see what I can get shooting street photography, not just on a beach, but in a quiet, small, tiny village on the coast in France. It's beautiful. There's not a lot to see. Always like a cone. I've often thought about a series of images of cones. I don't know why. Again, I think it's that man-made element in the environment. I'll have to get down pretty low for this one because I want it sticking up above the horizon to make it work. Also helpful if I get it flat. Shooting with the 35mm today. It's a good walkabout lens, and you know, it's fairly consistent with what the human eye sees. But I think the thing to do today is to just get a flavour of the place rather than anything more ambitious. And one of the things about French law is that you can't take photographs of people who are identifiable in public, so that is gonna be a challenge. I'm liking this grey beige palette though. That sense of nothingness. Quite like the sense of an abandoned, empty playground, waiting for the excitement of the day. Remains of yesterday's fun, I guess. I think the sun's going to come up. It's been super hot here, touching 30. Although it's quite chilly on the beach this morning, there's a bit of a breeze. It's a nice change, very refreshing. And I'm heading over towards the football goals. As you can see, again, it's something else that has meant a lot to me, and that imagery of the goal, it kind of is a metaphor for life in a way. When you think of street photography, you probably think of London, Paris, or New York, dynamic cities where life moves fast. But this is different. Life moves at a slower pace. It's more serene. People are few and far between. Interactions are minimal. The challenge is to find compelling images without being intrusive. You can't melt into the crowd here. You're noticeable. You need to be respectful, sometimes settling for more distant shots. Time to go and get some croissant, I think. See if the boulangerie is open. À vendre. Bike for sale. €900. And cafe opening up for the day. Bread being cooked. Can't resist a sign. Privé. Heading back with 2 delicious smelling, still warm croissants, ready for breakfast. A few hours later, obviously the grey sky's burned off and it's beautiful blue, super hot, and just enjoying this house here. Whether it's portrait or landscape, Just they look like tired eyes, don't they, those windows with the shutters half closed for the afternoon sun. But quite a different view. Weather-wise anyway, the road's still pretty quiet. I'm going to wander down towards the beach, but obviously there are lots of sensitivities when you're actually shooting on a beach, and especially in France, so I'm going to be a little bit careful. I'm not after photographing people, faces, bodies, but just evidence of human interaction really, or human interface with the beach. So yeah, let's see what we get. Just quite like the composition here. The water tower, the horizontal lines of the fencing, the gaps. Apparently in an hour or so there's going to be a summer market, and I guess that's what's happening here, people setting up. I have to say this is the busiest I've seen in the centre of the village. And the other thing is just the everyday stuff, post boxes. Everything looks different and fresh when you're abroad, and the locals are probably wondering what on earth I'm doing. A, talking to myself, and B, photographing post boxes. It's very easy to slip into travel photography. By that I mean capturing the place instead of the people. There's nothing wrong with that, but street photography is always challenging us to find humanity in our frames. And I'm always a bit of a sucker for a sign. Maybe it's the red, maybe it's the circle, I don't know, but just drawn to them. Strangely drawn, badly drawn. Excellent oysters in there. More than anything else, I really like the frame, the windows, and you can see beyond to the, all those things, sand yachts? I think you do. Anyway, good place for oysters. How Breton is this? Boule breton, pétanque interdit. So, you can play boule breton, but you can't play pétanque for some reason. And I have to confess, I thought they were the same thing. But, apparently not. Heaving. No space at all. Tide is always miles out, miles and miles. There's a nice holiday scene. Almost picture postcard really. Pretty bright today, so I'm shooting with a faster shutter speed than usual, or at least I'm watching the 500th of a second. I've even been up to 2000th at some points. But we'll see. Hard to tell in this light. Very different from shooting in Piccadilly Circus or somewhere like that, but it is pretty. And that stone wall, the shutters, the plant, yeah, just lovely. And every so often you come across a little cut through an alley, what my gran used to call a snicket. And these are great. Of course, they'd be even more great with proper subject coming through the other end, but that's a nice view. Kind of looks like a gate on its own. I wonder what happened to the original fence. There is a whole lot of nothing. And maybe that just confirms what I was saying last time, which is not a surprise, that you need to do a heck of a lot of this to come back with anything compared to a morning spent in a bustling city. You know, 20 minutes in Piccadilly Circus. I've probably got more material than in several days walking up and down here. Both are valid, both are valuable. One balances the other. And it's always good to see somewhere fresh. And it makes me think about what I'm doing as well. It's not so fast and furious here, it's much more ponderous, considered, and I'm sure mental well-being plays a part in that as well. Very few people around, fresh air, sunlight. It's got to be much better for you than shooting in the city, even if it doesn't really get my creative juices flowing. Perfect place for 1, 2, 3 of these. Only the first one's still got its sails. I think there are a further few as you go up the coast, but the wind would just blow straight in off the bay and munch your corn for you. Makes sense. How's that for a perfect place to stop, staring out into oblivion? Just seems slightly incongruous to have a recycling place next to a cemetery. Funny that. Bit of old machinery, overgrown, plants growing through it. Might be nice in black and white. So I'm definitely rousing a bit of suspicion, and maybe it's time to stop because I'm not really trying to cause anybody any harm. But having just taken a photo of a couple of old pumps, the guy pulled up in his car and asked me if I wanted to buy the place. I definitely don't want to buy a derelict petrol station, but I guess if they're not used to seeing people wandering around taking photos, it's going to look suspicious. I would be at home. So yeah, anyway, apologies France. Just out of town. Beautiful countryside, love the S-bend in the road. What I really like is a cyclist coming through here. And beautifully flat and quiet for just about as far as the eye can see. So I've been here about 10 minutes. Missed one cyclist because I got the settings all wrong. I'm just filming here expecting them to come along, and 2 of them have just got off the road into the track, so that's not going to work either. Here come some kids on one, so maybe. That's quite nice. Like a family of ducklings crossing the road. I'm going to call it a day. I would never have shot street photography in such a concentrated way in a small village like this if it wasn't for shooting this video channel. It's quite interesting, but I think actually I'd prefer to just wander around with a camera in an everyday way and just take a picture of anything that took my fancy, which is really what street photography should be about. It's just for fun, isn't it? I think I'll stick to the city really. For this last piece of the video, I've chosen 4 images to share with you. Only one of them was actually shot in the video. In fact, actually, it wasn't even shot in the video, but the beach was, and the playground scene that you can see here. I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a moment. But really that underlines the problems I had with shooting. You go out for a couple of hours with the GoPro and the camera, and you don't get any keepers because really it's so hard to find anything in that environment. But I have got a few shots that I will share with you from my week in that particular little village. So first up is this one, and I really like this. I liked the playground scene anyway. The playground furniture, the swings and the climbing frame, I really liked. I liked the fact that you've got these horizontal lines which delineate the image. So the grassy bank here, the beach, and the wet beach, and the distant sea. The sea was always miles out here. It's in the Bay of the Mont Saint-Michel in Brittany, and then you've got the skyline. So you've got these very hard horizontal lines anyway, which form a nice backdrop for the action to take place in. I like the colour, so the greens here, but then the very muted colours of the seaside, the sky and the sea are very similar, bluey greys, and the sort of beige of the sand. But I really like the bright colours of the people and the clothes they're wearing and the toys they're playing with. What I'm particularly pleased about with this image is that every single person is individual and not touching anybody else. The only point I think is here with this mother and son who are very close, but that's allowed. So I find that really, really satisfying. I don't know whether it works for you, but for me, I'm really pleased with this image, and it's one that really stands out in all of the images I took last year, not just in the week that I was in this place in France. So that's the first one. The second one is much more abstract, and it was taken in the back garden of the house we were staying in, where they had this rather austere fence and these big globe lights, outdoor lighting on these pedestals, and there's a lot of harsh sun, and here we've got the shadow of the light, which looks like a lollipop, and you know, interestingly, I suppose the shadow's in black, which it would be, the light itself is white, and it lent itself to an abstract, formal black and white composition, really, with just the little bit of nature showing in the lines from the tree here, which is much more random in design than the rest of the image. So I played around a little bit with the image when we were in the garden, and this, I think, was the best image I managed to get of that particular spot. This one, I mentioned the bar with the good oysters, and this was taken inside, in between oysters. I like the reflection you've got here of the people in this dark strip in the window, juxtaposed with what's going on outside, which are these pony rides onto the beach, and you've got the gulls here and the dusty, sandy path through the grass, the daisies growing. Very much outside on this side of the image, and then on the left-hand side, looking in, the chap here with his reflective glasses, his beer bottle, the inside of the restaurant. It's just, to me, it's a really nice juxtaposition. Perhaps the printing I've done here is maybe a little bit too dark. And finally, this is one that I actually took as we were leaving France. This is in the docks at Calais, and it was a fantastic blue sky with these beautiful clouds, and something really appealed to me about the harsh lines of it's not really a car park, it's where the cars all line up to get on the ferries, and obviously at the moment it's pretty much empty, a couple of cars over here, but it's the harsh lines of that and the crossing here. The bottom third of the image is all about human interaction, not interaction, but human. It's all stuff that is man-made and harsh, and particularly so in black and white, whereas the upper two-thirds, or at least the central third, is brilliantly contrasted because it's these beautiful soft white fluffy clouds. And I just really like the three parts of the image, what it says about contrast, not just black and white but hard and soft, and something, you know, this is almost literally street photography, but this is humanism, this is human impact on the environment against the majesty of the clouds. So yeah, that particularly appealed to me, although it wasn't strictly taken on the day that I was doing the videoing. It was on the way back, as I said. So street photography and a quiet beach town might not bring dramatic images like you'd find in a big city, but it does teach you to see differently, perhaps to appreciate subtlety, to find beauty in the mundane. It teaches you to slow down, to look closer, and to work to find the stories waiting to be told. I hope you enjoyed that little taste of France with me. It is really difficult shooting street photography in a small, quiet town, and it does become more travel photography. It's seeking out those human elements that make it about the street. Anyway, that's how I saw it. Do join me next time. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you're enjoying the series, then a subscription, click on that subscribe button, that would be great. See you all next time. Take care.